Campbell Town, Tasmania, a town with a history reaching back to the early 1820s. Situated on the Heritage Highway, about 2/3 of the way from Hobart to Launceston. Its 3-kilometre-long High Street is being used here for the Pipe Band Championships during recently held Highland Games. It was quieter in the 1820s. But there's much more to Campbell Town than its High Street. It's a town packed with history and endeavour, with a good many claims to a place on the map of the world, as we shall see. The town was named on 31st of May 1821 by Governor Lachlan Macquarie, who camped by the bank of a small river which he called after his wife Elizabeth. The town he named Campbell Town after her maiden name. The other nearby river, the Macquarie, he called after himself. There was not much false modesty in those days. Along the fertile banks of these rivers, large land grants were made to early settlers, and convict labourers were sometimes assigned to the farmers to help establish their properties. One of these properties was Winton, granted to the Taylor family in 1823. No convict labour was ever used on Winton, and the superb outbuildings remain as a monument to the craftsmen who built them during the 1830s and 40s. The property is famous for its superfine Saxon merino wool, which comes from stock imported from Saxony by an early pioneer, Eliza Furlong. The property is still flourishing under a direct descendant, John Taylor, and his wife Vera.
These sheep are direct descendants of the Furlong sheep that were imported in 1828 from Saxony by Eliza Furlong. And they've been kept here on Winton since they were purchased from the Furlongs in 1835.
The wool from these top quality rams would average 17 to 18 microns, which is a very fine wool. But this bale of AAA weather wool from the 1997 shearing averages 16 microns. Truly a superfine wool from an old established Tasmanian property. It'll be exhibited in the Campbell Town Show, which has been run by the Midland Agricultural Society every year without interruption since the first show in 1839, a record no other agricultural society in Australia can equal. At first, Campbell Town was a garrison village built to prevent convicts escaping to the north. Its first building was occupied by Thomas Kenton, whose task was to interrogate all travellers crossing the Elizabeth River from the south. His job came to an end when he was shot dead by the bushranger Matthew Brady. Other fatalities in the same area over the years caused the district to be known as Tragedy Hill. The oldest permanent building still occupied today is the old Campbell Town Inn, which stands close to the site of Kenton's old hut just a little south of the Elizabeth River. The original road crossed the marshes, forded the river, and proceeded north. In 1823, a small stone bridge was built, enabling wheeled vehicles to cross the river safely. The road became known as Bridge Street, and the little bridge still stands today. As more people came to live in the area, and more travellers needed to venture northwards, it became necessary to build a substantial new bridge over the Elizabeth River. This was a huge task, as the course of the river had to be altered to allow for earthworks to build up the approaches over the marshy ground and to stabilise the foundations. This massive excavation was undertaken by a force of better behaved convicts using hand tools and horse-drawn drays to remove the spoil. For their labours, they received a special Treasury grant of 6p per day. Work began on the bridge in April 1837 and was completed in July 1838, just 15 months later. A marathon task of civil engineering in those days. The bricks were made from local clay and fired in special kilns at over 600 degrees Celsius. In charge of construction was Captain Alexander Chain, whose name is on the bridge, but the day-to-day supervisor was Frederick Forth, the police magistrate. His elegant cottage, Cottage Ornay, very close to the bridge, still stands today. The approaches went past a local brewery, a two-storey structure belonging to Thomas Keene. The lower story was obscured by the earthworks, and the building appears from the front as if it were only 1 story high. At the back, the 2 stories are clearly visible. In this courtyard behind the brewery, the local militia used to drill, resplendent in their uniforms and ready to discourage any convict escaping to the north. Without the convicts, the bridge could not have been built. The heavy freestone slabs used in the construction of the bridge came from a quarry near the town of Ross. The slabs were placed on wooden sleds fitted with small iron wheels and dragged 18 kilometres to the site by convict labourers, 6 to each sled. The capping slabs were pinned together by large iron staples bearing the government broad arrow. Although the bridge was designed for the small horse-drawn vehicles of the 1800s and has never had any major repairs, it easily handles the heavy motor traffic of today. A recent traffic tally numbered 1,200,000 motor vehicles in a year. Legend has it that the bridge was designed by the famous convict architect James Blackburn, sent to Port Arthur for forging a £600 cheque. But the plans have never been found. Blackburn lived in a house close to the bridge and later built a flour mill. The old mill race still exists in the grounds of the house, and the exit canal, cut from the river, is the source of the town water supply today. Blackburn later sold the mill and his house and departed for Melbourne, where he became the first city surveyor and was known as the father of Melbourne's water supply. The mill was later destroyed by fire. Just to walk along the banks of the river today is a relaxing experience and a reminder of an era where speed was not considered important. It may have been slower, but it was not kinder. The convict labourers working on the bridge, known as the Red Bridge, were housed in the cellars of a nearby inn, a gracious Georgian building called the Fox Hunter's Return. While the house guests enjoyed a luxurious lifestyle, the convicts viewed the outside world through a small grill just below street level, and their diet was almost certainly very basic. The original Fox Hunter's Return was built in 1829 in Bridge Street on the Old North Road, and quite close to it a set of stocks was always ready to receive reprehensible characters, usually those who'd spent too much time and money in the local hostelry. It seems strange that this was not really very long ago. Not many people living today can personally recall the convict days, but Alec Oakley, who still runs a business in the town, gets closer than most.
Joseph Oakley was born in Hamilton, England, was my grandfather. He got into trouble being one of 4 people charged with the theft of an item of jewellery at a boarding house. The sentence on the 3 of them was 15 years in penal servitude at Norfolk Island. The other one, the gentleman that was not guilty, a chap by the name of Fellows, was given 10 years servitude at Norfolk Island, apparently for being in company with the 3 felons. And it seems a very unlucky end to Mr. Fellows. Now, my grandfather came out on the Hyderabad in about 1845, I think it was, and he was sent from Norfolk Island. After 2 years there, he was sent to Port Arthur. He spent 3 to 4 years at Port Arthur, and he was released from there for good behaviour and sent to the East Coast as a policeman. From the East Coast, he came to Campbell Town and set himself up as a dealer and married a Margaret McCormick. And that, of course, that's where we originated, at Campbell Town.
Campbell Town has had its share of colourful characters, and one of the most interesting was Dr. William Valentine, a man of many talents, a loyal churchman with definite ideas, which sometimes led to confrontations, an amateur astronomer, keen botanist, and a designer and maker of surgical prostheses. He made an artificial leg for one of his servants. He engaged James Blackburn to build him the Grange, a splendid mansion set in spacious grounds. One of the doctor's exploits was to invite an American astronomical expedition to view the transit of Venus in December 1875. The invitation was accepted, and the party photographed the event very successfully in the grounds of the Grange. Their quickly erected observatory was dismantled afterwards, and the only artifact remaining is the brick pillar on which the telescope was mounted. The glass used for the observatory became the conservatory of the Grange, and the casing for the telescope forms the entrance to the Grange today. One sour note, which revealed another side of the doctor's character, was his objection to the ordination of William Kirkland, a young man with high church leanings who at one time was a guest at the Grange.
The bishop from Hobart thought that it would be a very good idea to ordain a member of the clergy in a country area, so he selected Campbell Town. But the Reverend Kirkland had fallen foul of Dr. Valentine for certain interpretations of the scriptures. So Valentine publicly rejected his ordination in the church, much to the despair, I would say, of the Reverend Kirkland and his wife. But anyway, later on, he was ordained in Hobart.
William Kirkland returned to Campbell Town after his ordination, but he came to a sad end at the age of 27, 3 days after his only daughter died at the age of 5 months. This is all that remains today of the old Campbell Town railway station, which was demolished in the 1960s. In the 1870s, it was a place of some renown because it was the site of the first telephone call made in the Southern Hemisphere. This was organised by Mr. Alfred Biggs, an amateur astronomer known throughout Australia. Early in 1877, he made an exact replica of Alexander Graham Bell's telephone apparatus and encased it in Tasmanian hewn pine. He connected one end to the Morse key at Campbell Town Station and the other end to a similar Morse key in Launceston. He then transmitted various sounds, including a voice message. They were all heard clearly at the other end, 36 miles away by train. This aeroplane is a Lockheed Vigo called the Winnie May, the first aeroplane to make a fast flight around the world. The flight was made in June 1931 and took 8 days, 15 hours and 15 minutes. The pilot was the American Wiley Post, and the navigator was the famous Australian aviator Harold Gatty. For his achievement, Gatty was awarded the American Distinguished Flying Cross by a special act of Congress and was the first Australian to receive a hero's welcome in New York. Gatty was born in Campbell Town in 1901 and lived at this schoolhouse where his father was headmaster. In the spacious grassed area in front of the Grange is a memorial to a man largely responsible for the prosperity of southern Tasmania, Frank Long. Long was an experienced miner who discovered silver-lead ore in country between the Pieman and King Rivers in 1882. From that discovery arose the town of Diemen and a flourishing mining industry. Old houses are a feature of Campbell Town. There are more than 100 buildings over 100 years old, most of them with a story attached. This cottage was one of a number built in the 1850s to house British military pensioners encouraged to settle in Tasmania. It was felt that the pensioners would be useful to augment the police force or to back up the military in cases of emergency. The cottages were not to cost over £25 each, and this one, in original condition, shows that they were not palatial. The land adjoining this house was owned by Alfred Rankmore, who promised to build a house on it for his wife Maria. However, on being refused credit at the local pub, he pledged the land to the publican and refused to leave until he'd consumed its worth in liquor. Maria lived in this rented house for the rest of her life. She always kept the curtains drawn across the window at the back, which overlooked the land where her dream house was to have stood. In this house lived an early police magistrate, Thomas Mason, who made such a habit of mustering the convicts in his charge that they dubbed him Mr. Master Mason. Here lived Theophilus Swift, a local schoolmaster. One day he sent a schoolboy messenger to collect a bottle of medicine prescribed by Dr. Valentine. Unfortunately, the doctor picked up a bottle of laudanum instead of the prescribed tonic, and the schoolmaster died. Alec Oakley recalls the aftermath.
The good doctor was eventually prosecuted and charged with manslaughter in the court at Launceston. But because of his good character and the fact that it was an absolute accident, when he was found guilty, his penalty was to pay £25 to the Queen. Now, Dr. Valentine died in the late 70s, but he certainly left his mark at Campbell Town.
Another man who left his mark on Campbell Town was Dr. Adam Turnbull, who lived here at Ivy Cottage. For many years he was private secretary to the Governor, Sir William Denison. He spoke publicly and forcefully against the transportation of convicts, which displeased Sir William and cost him his job and government pension. Eventually he became rector of St Andrews Presbyterian Church, an elegant building then under construction. Apparently when the scaffolding was dismantled, a rope was left dangling from the steeple. The legend is that a local marksman called Douglas, who had been working at the Winton estate, shot it off with his pistol just before the consecration ceremony in 1867. St Michael's Roman Catholic Church was also completed in 1857 in a commanding position on the brow of a hill. The Brick Hill Memorial Church, now a restaurant, was built about 1878, with funds donated by Joseph Brickhill, who died following a bite from his Alsatian dog. St Luke's Anglican Church was the earliest one, completed in 1839, with a superb organ built by Walkers of London, installed in 1862. The churchyard overlooks the St Luke's Sunday School, designed by James Blackburn, and the substantial town hall, which was designed and built by a remarkable man, Bill Lockett, and his son, young Bill. Old Bill couldn't read or write, but he and his son were jacks and masters of all trades. Halfway through construction of the town hall, they had to change the design to incorporate a memorial tower to Dr. Toft, a local character recalled now by Alec Oakley.
Dr. Toft, of course, was so well known in Campbell Town in those days. He lived 3 miles out of town, and he visited the town every day in his little jinker, and drove around the town calling on the patients that he had. And if you wanted a doctor in those days, you hung a white towel on the front fence and Dr. Toff would call.
One of the loveliest homes in Campbell Town, known today as Howley Lodge, was built in the 1830s on a 10-acre site not far from St Andrews Church. In the driveway, outside the front door, is a magnificent oak tree, which must have been planted when the house was built. Howley Lodge looks across to the recreation ground, seen here as the venue for the Highland Games of 1995. (1996) marked the 175th anniversary of Campbell Town, and people came from far and near to celebrate the occasion. At the school, memories of the stocks were recreated. And the school band brought nostalgic memories of the old Campbell Town band, which Alec Oakley says was once a notable feature of the town.
In my lifetime, it became over 40 strong. One of the first conductors of the Campbell Town band was a famous composer, Alex Lithgow, the man who composed the famous marches Invercargill and Old Comrades, the same marches that are played by the Royal Bands in England today. Unfortunately, the band that he conducted at Campbell Town is now defunct. But the memories still exist of that band. It went to all functions. It had a uniform which was entirely its own. It had a great history. It was a great shame to see its demise.
Campbell Town has links with the earliest colonisation of Australia. Born out of an English penal colony, named after Scottish aristocracy, and populated largely by people of Irish descent, the sons of Erin. When you're next in that long 3-kilometre high street at Campbell Town, don't just drive straight through it. Stop for a while. Look around you, because here are fascinating memories of the early history of Tasmania.